Well, we are in a series called 1,000 Minutes, and that is 1 minute you just lost that you will never, ever get back. So thank you, Guy on a Buffalo. My name is Chris Torres, and I serve on staff as a Springfield campus pastor as well as one of the teaching pastors here at North Point. And we just want to take a quick second and welcome our Nixa campus tuning in and all of those online. But we are in this series called 1,000 Minutes, where we've been looking at what would it look like for us if we took 1,000 minutes and invested into something that would help us to move forward, that would help us to take our next step, maybe a hobby or a hobby or a habit. Not that. But what would it look like if we did that? And so as I was evaluating my life and looking at what could I really use in my life, I came to this conclusion that it's time management. And here's why I landed on that, because it's kind of like, I've always wondered why when I would see movies with genies in them, when the genie would come out and say, you have 3 wishes, why people never wished for more wishes. Well, with time management, here's what I found is that if we can take care and manage our time wisely, what will happen is it will create greater opportunity for more time in the future to invest into habits and things that we have to do in hobbies, not hobbits, things like that. So what I want to do today is I want to start off by asking you a question. And the question is this, is how many of you would say that you could use an extra hour in your day? Okay, that's what I thought. How many of you would say that, let's be a little more honest, how many of you would say that you have not always used the time that you have now currently wisely? Well, that's because we've got tons of stuff going on, right? We've got social media that can easily suck up time. Holidays just passed. I don't know about you, but when family is all over, sometimes I need a break. So what I do is I go and I hide in the bathroom. And sometimes, don't judge me. Sorry for any family members that are watching. But I will get stuck just scrolling. 40 minutes later, I'll come back out. Netflix. This is shameful to admit. I just finished the 8th season of a show I started 3 weeks ago. It's awful. It's awful. So you can tell I need this message more than anybody else in the room. But it's so easy to get sucked into those things. How many of us have wasted time worrying? We got a doctor's report. We're worried about what somebody in our company is thinking about us or saying about us. And we worry and we worry and we worry. Let me ask you a quick question. Where has that ever got you? Sometimes, man, we'll waste our time on dumb stuff. Honestly. I remember one time, I literally, no joke, spent 3 hours trying to teach a cat to walk on a leash. Such a dumb idea. My forearms were all tore up, and that cat did not learn how to walk on a leash. But here's what I want to do, is I want to give you some things that I've noticed about time. It's all very, very simple. None of it is going to blow your mind, but it's important for us to know, I think, to get us where we want to go. So the first thing is this, is time is valuable. If you're writing notes, you can take that down in your outline. Time is valuable, and here's how I know that. Because you spend it. You spend it with friends, you spend it with family, you spend it at the bars, you spend it wherever you spend it, you spend it. However you spend it, you spend it. Time is also accumulative, meaning that over time, what you do adds up. So, for example, if I opened a savings account 5 weeks ago, probably going to look very different from somebody who opened it 50 years ago. If I started working out at the gym 2 weeks ago, going to look different from somebody who's been working out for 2 years ago. So what you do over time has a summative amount. Time is also a tool. So I brought a tool here with me today. And time is a tool for a couple of reasons. One, you can use it. You can use a tool. And when I say use it, I mean this. I mean that you do the right thing at the right time. This is what I mean. So you could take this hammer, and maybe you've been planning an addition, adding on an addition to your home, and you've saved, and you've got the money in there, and you've got the time off, and you're like, man, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to get it in. good time to use a hammer, right? So you can use it just like that with our time. When we use our time, what I mean is that we are doing the best things first. We are spending time with family. We're spending time with Jesus. We use our time to invest in the most important things in our life. But like a tool, I can abuse my time. It's doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Never is it the right use of this tool to smack someone in the face with it. And nor is it ever the right time. Now, I'm willing to concede on both because there's some people. But it's the wrong thing at the wrong time. And just like that, when we abuse our time, we're blowing opportunities because we're choosing to do things that don't add up to anything good in our lives. We can also misuse our time. Just like you can abuse it and you can use it, you can also misuse it. And that's doing the right thing at the wrong time. It might be that you have that addition ready to add on, but if you start that at 2 a.m. in the morning, probably going to make a few enemies. It may be the right thing for your family to take a vacation, but if you're in financial debt and ruins and trying to climb out of it, might not be the right time. Might be the right thing for you to connect with some friends, but if you're recovering from some things and they're headed to some places that got some triggers, might not be the right time. So you can use it, you can abuse it, you can misuse it. Here's what I want you all to get. You never get to reuse it. Never. When it's gone, it's gone. You don't get a second time. And so here's what can happen so easily is we can, and this happens more often than you would think, is we look at the future and we misinterpret the time that we have. We look at it and we think, I've got all this time coming up, that I can do this. For example, if you've ever said the phrase, I'll do it next week. I'll get to it next week. That's a phrase that I just dissected this past week, and it's pretty interesting to what I came up to, so I'm going to show you this. If you took next week, 7 days, right? You got 7 days in your mind. I'm going to connect with Jesus, grow spiritually, spend time with family, spend time with friends. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All of these good things that you're going to do with your time. You got 7 days. Let's take that. Break it down hourly. You got 168 hours in 1 week. Okay. I'm going to pull out just 2 things out of this. Just 2. Now, I'm going to stay very general. Okay. So I'll take a 40-hour work week. Pull that out. So if you work, just adjust. Some of you may work less or more than that, whatever. We'll just stay general. Take 40 hours out. And then I want you to subtract your sleep. So stay general. 8 hours a night if you get that. Some of you sleep less. Some of you sleep way more than that. Whatever it is, 8 hours, that's 56 hours in a week. If you took out just those 2, you have 72 hours left. Just 2. So you just went from a 7-day week ahead of you down to a 3 days you've got. And that's not a lot of time. If I've got to spend time with Jesus, if I've got to eat, if I've got to connect with my family, if I've got to do things extra maybe for my work, if I've got a paper to write, if I've got all of these things going on, I don't have a lot of time. So it's super, super important for me to figure out how do I get the best use of the time that I have. So I want to look at this passage in Ephesians 5. It's verses 15 through 16. Here's what it says. It says, this is Paul, he's writing to the church in Ephesus. He says, look carefully, then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the, circle this, best use of the time, because the days are evil. So Paul is addressing a church, and I know we just went through a big series where we kind of looked at all of this stuff, but there's a time and things that are vying for people's attention. In those cities, in that day, there were all sorts of things that you could do that probably weren't the best use of your time. There were Judaizers that were pulling for the attention of these people that were following them. They were trying to get them to concede and do all the traditions that the Jewish people used to do in order to be saved. And so they were telling them this is the best use of your time. Then you've got pagan temples, where pagan temples weren't just a place like this where people would attend for church. They were social gathering places. So if you wanted to climb the ladder politically or socially or connect with friends, basically church was like Applebee's. A pagan temple, that's what it would have been like. Everybody would have went there. And so there were all of these different things pulling. So Paul says this, he says, look carefully, be alert, pay attention. Don't just fumble your way through life. Look at how you're using your time. And he says there's only two ways that you can spend it. He says there's a wise way to spend it and an unwise way. Word wise here in this passage, it means skilled or cultivated, learned. Like what it means in context of this passage is that there's people who over time have paid attention to their walk, have paid attention to how they use their time, and because of that, they've developed the skill that it takes in order to make the wise decision with the time that they have ahead of them. Then there's the unwise person. That means foolish. A foolish person does not make the best use of their time because they never examine how they use it. They never pay attention to what they've done, to how they walk. They just continue to fumble and go through life without ever stopping or pausing to look at how they spend their time. Only two ways to use it, wise and unwise. That's it. You can use it foolishly, or you can develop the skill to use it wisely. Now, it says to make the best use of the time. Now, this word time, Jeremy talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The word kairos, in this word, it means a fitting season or an opportunity, but it comes from the word kara, which means head. So you can look at this like this. This is an opportunity when a decision comes to head. When it comes to the head, what do I mean? An opportunity when decision, what decision? The decision to use the opportunity wisely or to use it foolishly. And it's interesting to me that we would look at time not as something that just hands on a clock that pass, or when you punch in or punch out of work, or when you go on lunch break, but as an opportunity. What if you looked at every moment as an opportunity? What if you didn't look at the car ride home today as just time passing to get you home? What if you looked at it as an opportunity to have a conversation with your kids? What if you looked at every time you lay down in bed and you're married, you looked at your spouse and you looked at it as a great opportunity to connect with them? What if, how different is that if we look at, because here's the truth, I wouldn't blow an opportunity, would you? If somebody gave you the opportunity to travel the world, would you blow it? If somebody gave you the opportunity to make more money, would you blow that? If somebody gave you the opportunity to make more money, move up in your career, whatever it is, would you blow those opportunities? I wouldn't blow an opportunity, but how quick am I to blow an opportunity with my family? How quick am I to pass up an opportunity to be with my wife, an opportunity to be with my kids, an opportunity to be with Jesus? Because of busy stuff that creeps into my life. There's so many opportunities that are coming ahead of us, but they're narrowed down. Your 7-day week isn't going to be 7 days next week. You've got 3 days. But in those 3 days, you have an opportunity to make the best use of your time. So let's look at another passage now in Luke chapter 10. I think that'll help us out here. Story of Mary and Martha, verse 38 and 40 says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, they came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Circle that word, home. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was distracted. Circle that word, distracted. By all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister left me to do the work? Tell her to help me. Now, you got two people in the same house at the same time, but if we look at time as an opportunity, they have the same opportunity then. One chose to be with Jesus, the other, the Bible says, was distracted. Now, before we villainize Martha, here's what I want you to know. Martha did what was normal. You can write that in your outline. Martha simply was doing what was normal. It was not out of context to do this, and it was certainly the culture of that time. Now, any person, the reason I had you circle the word home, any person that was a homeowner was responsible for three things: food, entertainment, and hospitality. So there was a responsibility according to culture of things that Martha had to take care of. And here's what I'm saying is it's labeled as a distraction. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing or a malicious thing to still be a distraction from what's most important. Social media is not a bad thing, but it can still be a distraction if it's taking me away from time with my kids. Or even worse, I'm present in the room but not paying attention. It was a distraction. Let's look at what Martha was going through. Or Mary says this. Jesus said this in verse 41. Martha, Martha. Now, anytime you see a name back to back like that, he's emphasizing something. So in our culture today, if I wanted to emphasize something, I would get really loud, really big, might do this. I'm trying to get you to pay attention to what I'm about to say. Jesus, he's saying, Martha, Martha, look. Listen to me. The Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Or indeed only one. Mary has chosen, circle the word chosen, what is better. Circle the word better. And it will not be taken from her. Now, Mary is here sitting at the feet of Jesus, and it says that she has chosen what was better. See, all of this, it boils down to a choice. There are things in our life that are just normal. Work is normal. Netflix is normal. YouTube is normal. Guy on a buffalo, not normal, but you watch it on YouTube and that's normal. And those things that are normal can sometimes distract us from what is needed. Mary did what was needed. She did what was needed. And here's what I'm telling you. In your life, you're going to be presented with opportunities ahead of you, and it boils down to a choice. To choose to do what is needed. So how do we do that? If you were to give me one thing and say, hey, here's how we accomplish this next week, here's what I would tell you. It's in your notes, write this down. Do what is needed first. Do what is needed first. Martha did what was normal. Mary did what was needed. They all had the same opportunity. Choose to do what's needed first. Now, how do we do that? It's very, very simple. You begin with the end in mind. Now, let me clarify what that means. You take it all the way. I want you right now in your head, take your life all the way to the end of your life. Imagine your funeral, where you do not have any more opportunities to be a father or a mother, to be a husband or a spouse. You don't have any more opportunities to be a friend. What are the things that you want those people in your life to step up and say about you? What are the things? That will draw your attention to what you need to do first. Because at the end of my life, when I'm laying in a casket, I don't want anybody coming up and going, man, Chris, he really knew how to work a 70-hour work week. Man, that guy, he found the dumbest videos on YouTube. I don't care about any of that. There are five things I want people to say about me when I die. One, that I was a good follower of Jesus. That I spent time with him. I devoted time to his word. I studied his word. I prayed. I engaged. I followed him well. I was a good follower of Jesus. I want them to say that I was a good husband. That I spent time with my spouse. That I didn't just pass up opportunities to go on dates. That I didn't just pass up opportunities because I was busy doing the things that I would normally do. I want people to say I was a good dad. That I invested time with my kids. That I didn't blow those opportunities because I was distracted by a device or by worrying about work or worrying about what people think. Or I want them to see that I was intentional. I want to be a good leader and a good friend. Honestly, a good friend. I want people to say that I invested into the relationships that I had. And the last thing I'll give you, and probably the most important, is that I want people to say that I was really good looking. I don't know that I have control over that, but we'll go with 4. I'll say I have 4 things that I want people to say. I want people to say those things about me when I die. So now that I have that picture, I know what I need to do first. I know what I need to do first. And the ending of verse 42, it said this, and it will not be taken from her. Listen, this is the mentality you have to approach your time with, that when the opportunity presents itself, don't allow the things that could easily distract you to creep in. Don't allow all of this stuff that would be normal to come back into your life. It's going to be real easy to grab a remote and click it when I've made plans to spend some time paying attention to my spouse or with my kids. It's going to be real easy. It's going to be real easy to get distracted when I know that I'm supposed to be doing homework and investing into my future to be tempted to go out and spend time out with friends. It all boils down to doing what you need to do first. Lolly Daskell says this: to master time management is to set priorities among your goals. There is never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do what's important. Here's something else I noticed when I was reading this passage. Not only was Martha distracted and over here missing time with Jesus, but her sister was in that room too. And here's what I've learned. That when distractions creep into our lives, usually the first things that we miss is time with family and time with Jesus. And I'm just being honest, speaking about my own life. Those are the 2 things that I miss. So it's time to do first things first. I was a student pastor, and we did an event, a big summer event. It was real fun. Had like 1,500 students there. It was absolutely bonkers. And the auditorium, the smell in that auditorium afterwards, BO and Old Spice body spray is like the worst mixture. And so anyway, that's way off track. It was an awesome time, but as I was leaving the event, I had a giant tote in the bed of my truck, and it was full of like balls and frisbees because we had been at a sports complex that day. And I was leaving and driving home, and I had a monthly subscription to one of those car washes that you can have one too. And so I turned into the parking lot, and I was like, hey, I'm going to get my truck washed today. And then I remembered the tote, because when I pulled in, I saw a giant sign hanging right above all 3 lanes that said, "Attention drivers with trucks." I said, okay, they're talking to me. Said, "Do these things before you enter. Number 1, empty the bed of your truck." I was like, that's stupid. I'm not going to do that. This sign ain't for me. Well, where am I going to put my stuff? And so logically, let me help you arrive where I arrived. The tote was dirty. I was like, it could use a bath. So I'm going to take it through. And I did. I drove into the car wash, and they hooked me up. They gave me my little air freshener, asked me what I wanted my car to smell like, and they hooked me up, and I go through. And these car washes, man, it's like a show, man, these days. There's like foam colors and neon lights and all this cool stuff, and I'm going through. And as I get to the rinse, like where it's rinsing off my windshield, I hear the sound of these like jet engines click on to dry off my truck. Boo! And I realized, I was like, that's why they put the sign up. I just didn't think that far ahead. And so as I'm coming out, it's like rattling the front of my truck. And I'm like, there is no way this is going to be good. There's no way this is going to end well. And it's coming over the top of my truck, and as it gets above the bed of the truck, while it's almost there, I can see the toad in the bed of the truck going, boo-boo, boo-boo. And when it comes directly over it, it goes, no joke, whoo, like 3 feet up from the bed of the truck, but hovers there. Like it's not tipping, it's just hovering in the bed of my truck. I'm like, this is like something you'd see at a Discovery Museum. This is cool. And then it tipped, whoop, and the lid flew off, and balls and frisbees went everywhere, like flying, like crazy. A frisbee, you're made to throw it. I mean, it took off, and the tote whiffs itself up into the air and down onto the hood of the car behind me, and then slides off of his hood and is now being dragged underneath his bumper. And this dude is looking at me like he's going to kill me. And I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That was a possibility. So I pull out of the car wash, and you know what I say? I say to myself, I'm like, self, you got to fix this. And so here's what I did. I ran back into the car wash on foot, in flip-flops. And as I'm running in to get this tote, this guy's looking at me, and we're making eye contact, and I'm like looking at him like, I'm gonna take care of this, bro. He's looking at me like, you're a moron. And I come running in like as fast as I could, because like I'm in a panic now. All of this happened so fast, so I'm just like responding. I'm running in to a car wash in flip-flops with concrete filled with soap and water. And when I get to the car and go to bend down to grab the tote, both my feet slip out from under me. And I fall on my back, and I hit his bumper with my body. And so I'm like scrambling to pick up this tote. I feel like a complete idiot. And I'm like jumping up. The blow dryers are blowing on me. I've got this tote. And this dude who was looking at me like he's going to kill me is just looking at me like I'm a straight moron. Why? Because he saw the same opportunity. He saw the sign when I pulled in. He knew that I had an opportunity to do that first, and I didn't take it. I continued to go forward. I continued to make the same. I continued to let my pride speak into life. I continued to let all these things, and I went forward, and all of a sudden I started losing a bunch of stuff. And then instead of pulling out with a clean truck, I was running in trying to recover everything that I had lost. Here's what I'm telling you, that when you mismanage your time, there's going to come a time in your life when you look back and you're going to realize I lost some things. And you're going to want to go and try to recover it. The point of this message is you can't. Listen. God's word tells us that family is important. It tells us that we need time with Jesus. I don't want to see you look back on your life with regret or shame or wondering, I wish I had another opportunity. Do what is needed first. The Bible in Psalms 90, verse 12 says this, says, teach us to realize how short our lives are, then our hearts will become wise. To make a wise decision, you have to have a wise heart. To have a wise heart, you have to realize how short this life is. I'll close with this. My son Hezekiah, he's 3 now. He about a year ago, I was at a different church, and I was writing a message. On my day off, I was writing a message because I speak. That's what I do. It's normal for me to prepare and write a message. So I'm sitting there on the chair and I'm writing it. And we had a basement at that time. We had wood floors, so you can hear him wherever he is in the house. You can hear those little footsteps. Do, 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 running. And he comes running in and he's like, Daddy, play with me. Dada, play with me. And I'm like, soon, son, soon. Let me finish this message. Soon. And he's 2. He doesn't know anything. So he says, okay, Dada. Do, 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 do. Runs off into the other room, and I can hear him playing, and I'm writing the message. 20 minutes goes by. 30 minutes goes by. 45 minutes later, do, 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 do. He comes running back in. Dada, you play with me now? Soon, son. I'm almost there. Soon. I can hear the footsteps as he runs out of the room. And I realized that if I keep telling my son soon enough, I'm not going to have this opportunity. That if I keep doing what I normally would do, I'm going to miss out on what I need to do. So I shut the book down, and I went and I started playing with him. And listen, I'm not perfect. And this isn't like a hero's story because I've dropped the ball plenty of times since then. But here's what I know, that whenever the opportunity for me to take advantage of this comes back to my head and I recognize it, I'm going to choose what's better. I don't care if that means that my message has to be subpar up here. I'm sorry, that's what it'll be. If that means that I don't spend as much time with my friends or out, then that's what it'll be. If that means that I have to give up Netflix, I may not like it, but I will. Because I have a goal in mind, and I have a priority, and that's to do what's needed first. So, let's pray. Jesus, help us to make the most of every opportunity we have today and this week. Moving forward, God, we've got 3 days. 3 days next week to spend time with family, to invest into Jesus, to be a good friend or a good spouse or whatever it is, God. We don't have a lot of time, so help us to use it wisely. Help us to choose what is better. Help us to do what is needed first. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.